If you ask most Americans, do they respect and have confidence in our men and women in uniform, they will give a resounding yes. But when you scratch the surface, this patina of respect for our military turns out to be a mile wide, but less than an inch deep. First of all, very few Americans are willing to actually serve in uniform. During World War II, admittedly a total war and probably the peak of mobilization, about 13% of our population was in uniform. Today, the military participation ratio is less than half of 1%. And so the burden of America's global presence has been borne disproportionately by a very small percentage of our society. And I don't think there's an easy fix to this. Going back to a draft, for example, would not guarantee that the burden of service would be equally felt. And likewise, there are all sorts of political and practical arguments about doing it. So what I'm calling for is simply a broader recognition of the fact that behind our sort of gaudy pro-military rhetoric and our cheering at football game flyovers or at NASCAR skydiving jumps, that we also think about affirmative support for our military, also involving care about when we send the men and women in uniform in harm's way. And it's easy to do that when our kids or the kids of our best friends are not likely to serve in uniform and to bear the burden of any decision to use military force. And so that, I think, also ought to be a way of supporting the troops, not only waving the flag, but also saying, we're not going to ask you to potentially make the ultimate sacrifice unless we're really sure it's necessary to the security of the rest of our country. And many of us, I think, in the restraint camp feel a moral obligation to our men and women in uniform to be careful and be selective about the use of military force, given that such a small percentage of our countrymen are actually bearing that burden.